All right. Tonight on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show, Joe Biden's State of the Union address, what he got wrong and what he couldn't remember. Racism in Ukraine. Africans and blacks is told that you can't get on the bus. Instead, you got to walk. And Putin, as we on a march for a nuclear war. Yes, President Putin says that he's trying to stop the neo Nazis for taking over Ukraine. And then Biden planned to spend $30 million grants on funding crack pipes for the black community. Now he and his Democrat shields are trying to then retract the statement. And finally, race soldier in Breonna Taylor's case get off. Well, how did Hankison was found not guilty?
Under verdict form number 1, we, the jury, find the defendant, Brett Hankison, not guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree under instruction number 4, as that applies to Cody Etherton. Verdict form number 2, as to Chelsea Nepper, we, the jury, find the defendant, Brett Hankison, not guilty of wanton endangerment first degree under instruction number 5. As to verdict form number 3, wanton endangerment first degree as to Zayden F., we, the jury, find the defendant, Brett Hankison, not guilty of wanton endangerment first degree under instruction number 6. Counsel, anything further from this jury?
Tonight, it shows white people in Breonna Taylor's case that listen, you can be shot close to or shot at if you stand next to those black folks. Thanks for staying up with me late here on a Saturday night. I'm Lawyer Henderson, and welcome to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. We'll get to the Hankison verdict in a minute as we talk there about how Hankison was able to use his white supremacist breakdown theatrics, what I call his white supremacist theatrics in court, where these white supremacists cry when they are on trial for shooting and killing unarmed black people. Kim Porter did it. Brett Hankison, like I said, did it. You had Amber Geiger that did it. Didn't work for her. But what they're trying to tell you here in the white supremacist system is that sometimes it may work and sometimes it won't. Well, we'll have that story later. But first, we're going to be talking about, Biden's, plan to spend $30 million grants to fund crack pipes instead of funding black businesses. And we told you that Jim Crow Joe, he just basically hates black people. We told you that this man was never around black folks. He was never, ever supportive of black people. But he made a lot of mistakes as far as his State of the Union speech. He talked about a lot of things in that in the State of Union, and a lot of black people still caping for him. Remember, this is the Democrats who said, "I'm not going to do anything that's only benefit black folks." No, because this is what they're about. They hate black folks, and so we had at the State of Union address is that Biden said. The idea is not to defund the police, but fund the police. And he got a standing ovation for both Democrats and Republicans. In other words, Republicans and Democrats are on the same team when it comes to anti-black hatred. And we've known that. It's just that black folks play stupid to racism. And we have to keep on reminding them that race playing stupid would only get you dead. But it was not that long when we talked there about his State of the Union. A lot of people are basically coming out and saying that, especially Republicans are coming out and saying that they were paying attention to Biden's cognitive intelligence. Is Biden on the stage of dementia? is this man losing his marbles? Okay. But when he came back, of course, to the when he came back, I'm sorry, I was reading some stuff here. But when he came back to Biden, that was talking about, um, when he mentioned it first, and a lot of other newspapers and conservative newspaper reported on it, that he was going to, um, spend $30 million grants to give to black folks who was on crack and all this. He was going to give crack pipes out. You have these Sambo Negroes coming out there caping for him, like Antoine C. Wright. Now, Antoine C. Wright has written for um, BET, and he wrote an article, and I'm going to give BET the credit, use our fair use here. And this was written by him, Antoine C. Wright, in February 14, 2022. He said, opinion. The notion of Biden administration funding crack pipes is nonsense, point blank. Here's why. I can't believe I have to do this. In other words, he can't believe that he has to take up for white daddy. Okay. I can't believe that in 2022, I have to refute a claim. Wait, hold on. Who told him that he has to refute a claim? And he goes on for his caping for Jim Crow Joe and say, I can't believe that in 2022 I have to refute a claim that is so obviously absurd that it would have made it through the writer's room for Ricky and Morty. I can't believe that I have to spend actual time on this nonsense. But here we are. And so let's make this absolutely clear. The Biden administration is not spending $30 million on crack pipes. They never had and they never will. Now, who is this Antoine C. Wright? Basically, why is he so, why is he placing so much emphasis on what the Biden administration is not doing? Who is this clown to tell us what we basically got reports of when it comes to Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe Biden, and how he's treating us? But he would go on to write in the article, and keep in mind, BET is not owned and ran by any black folks. Okay, this is owned by white folks, so you have to understand what's going on here. But he goes on to write here that I quote from him, I know it sounds like bad television, but earlier this week, the Washington Free Beacon, the same Washington Free Beacon that falsely claimed Representative Ilhan Omar was holding secret fundraisers with terrorists, wrote a story alleging that Biden administration was spending $30 million to fund crack pipe distribution. He obviously spelled distribution wrong, but okay. Of course, the claim being absolutely false and laughingly absurd didn't stop Fox News and GOP leaders like Senator Mark Rubio and Senator Ted Cruz from jumping on the bandwagon promoting the story as it was true, hoping to leverage its sensationalism for their own agendas. The truth is that the harm reduction program grant these folks are referring to is actually a series of grants designed to help prevent injury and death among people addicted to drugs. But what exactly does that mean? Well, it's actually pretty cool, is what he claims. There are a number of programs that provide things like testing equipment for sexually transmitted diseases, fentanyl test strips to prevent overdoses, emergency opiates, overdose medication like Nanolon, I hope I said that right, clean syringes, and even hepatitis A and B vaccines. Those are the kids of programs the grant program funds. Considering that the drug overdose killed 100,000 Americans between June 2020 and May of 2021, an opiate overdose death costs the U.S. economy $1 trillion a year. And programs that help prevent these deaths is good thing, right? The grant program also funds applicants to distribute safe smoking kits, prompting all of its craziness, of course. These kits typically include things like disinfectant wipes, rubber mouthpieces to prevent burns and cuts, and lip balms They don't include pipes ever. Of course, the Washington Free Beacon knew that. The Interview Health and the Human Services, the agency that runs the grant program, the HAS spokesperson George Silva, made it very clear that mention of crack pipes went beyond the information the department gave in report. Unfortunately, a little fact checking can get away sensational headlines. So I guess they didn't bother. Now let's keep in mind of who this Antoine Seawright is. At first, he admired his white teacher, I think in high school. He goes on to claim that he's the founder of some organization, Blueprint Strategy. See, we have to start doing these paperwork on these folks. Antoine has also managed a nonprofit, government, and sports marketing client throughout his career. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing from Western University, a master's degree MBA from Webster University. Seawright also graduated of the government Duck Rick Institute at Foreman University in 2012. Congressional Black Caucus Institute for Political Education, Leadership Training in Washington, D.C. Now, there you have it. When he mentioned the Congressional Black Caucus, we knew what the end game was. This is not a black person who support black people because the Congressional Black Caucus don't do a damn thing for black folks. Their whole thing is it's LGBT, people of color, all of this bull crap of benign neglect that we see so far. So we already know what this what's his name, Seawright clown is about. Well, enough of talking about Jim Crow Joe. Well, we may have to talk about him again later on, but hey, you know. Moving on to talk about what we're going to be talking about coming up. We're going to be talking next week. We're going to be talking about divestment tales. A black woman by the name of Asia Maynard. She was then killed by a white boyfriend of hers, some white man that she was dating. Now, this all sounds so familiar, as black women, or especially as black immigrants, as they think that these dating outside their race of these white zaddies, that this is going to help them and is sending them to their graves. Now, we're going to be talking about the divestment tales. In addition to that, we're going to be talking about Kevin Samuels and is he right about moderating women today and about his concept of high value males. And then finally, we can also next is coming up is we're going to be talking about the issue of the Small Business Administration and their discrimination against black businesses. So keep on listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. We have a lot of information that we're getting out there to the black community. Okay, coming up, we're going to be talking about, as you know, racism in Ukraine. Are we headed for a nuclear war? Is there going to be a draft coming back? All of this stuff is going to be something that we have to really question. As we have said in the black community and in the black media, none of this stuff, that this fight against Ukraine and Russia is not our problem until it becomes a black problem. And so we're going to stay with us, but we're going to be talking about the racism in Ukraine, even in a time of war. Okay, but I wanted to talk more about one thing I left off about Joe Biden when he did the State of the Union. I thought that was very important. Let me see if I can find it right quick. Here we go. One of the things that I failed to mention is that not only did Jim Crow Joe Biden get heckled by Representative Majority Taylor Greene, it was really, I wanted to basically point out also that when she heckled him, it was a situation where he was just, saying a lot of things that just did not make sense. He talked, for instance, but he made a mistake, for instance, by confusing Ukrainians with Iranians. He said the Iranian people. And it would almost seem like if you watch the State of the Union address, it seemed like that Kamala Harris was going to say, no, Joe, you mean the Ukrainians. What the hell are you talking about? But no, she didn't. She can't. She's not allowed. She's a white. I mean, a so-called black person who's an Asian woman, and of course they know their role. Especially, and then you had Nancy, old ass Pelosi, up there as well. They basically love to be in front of white daddy, And then did you see what's that woman's name that represented California? She was all in the picture with Jim Crow Joe. I forget her representative name from California. Let me look that up right quick while we're thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe, family. Like, share, and subscribe. You're listening to the Lawyer Henderson show. Okay, Democrat Congress. Hold on. Maxine Waters, yes, Maxine Waters. At the State of the Union, she just kept following White Daddy. White Daddy was like, "Damn, I wish you leave me alone." And everywhere you go, Maxine Waters is showing up. God damn, like White Daddy is trying to get away from you. You know what I'm saying? And I think old Jill was just looking down at Maxine Waters like, "Why the hell you keep on trying to get into the camera, of her husband?" She looking at, and that's what a lot of these old, decrepit, old women do. They try to get, they want to really be noticed that they there with their white daddy and white paid masters and stuff like that. Hey, I just said, okay, if that's what it is, if it's that serious, huh. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Another thing that I wanted to point out with the Biden administration is that Biden said that he was going to he's going to continue to sanction Russia, and that the military, the United States military, is not going to get involved in the war. Hell, you bet not. This man Putin is not playing with y'all asses. You talking about going back to draft. I won't be going to nobody's army or no war with nobody. Okay, they're gonna probably arrest me probably the second time after they do the draft. They're gonna probably come and get me for treason. But I'm not fighting no white man's war. And here's one of the reasons why you can't fight. Black people have been, as I've always said, have been the most loyal people in this country to white people. And yet we basically don't get anything. Like, for instance, Joe Biden, when he got in and did the Small Business Administration, well, first Trump did the PPP law. And then Biden tried to do a similar law. And then don't you know that Biden is now trying to go after those people? He's going to set up one of the things he mentioned at his State of the Union address is that he's going to set up a special prosecutor to go after people who they said defrauded the PPP loan, the Small Business Administration or whatever. These people, this man, I should say, is always about putting people in jail. You see what I'm saying? And this is one of the reasons why the United States have the highest incarceration rate. Okay, why do these people? You might say, well, PPP loan fraud is fraud, right? But these folks never go after politicians, judges. We have judges right now that should be stepping down, federal judges that should have stepped down because they were on cases in which cause a conflict of interest, and you ain't hearing anything else about it. The Washington Post did this piece and stuff like that. See, they don't want to come after me on a PPP loan because I'm going to tell them, say, wait a minute, you're coming after me for this PPP loan. Then what about the 138 federal judges that y'all did not tell that they have to resign when they broke the law? What about that? What about all these politicians knowing the information about what stocks could be getting, well, what products that this the new companies could be getting, and they go out there and putting money into the stocks of these companies. They're not supposed to have used their insider knowledge and bills passed in order to then benefit themselves. But people like John Kerry has been doing it for years. So yeah, come on after me on this PPP thing. I'm ready. I'm ready for Jim Crow Joe. But anyway, he has set up a special prosecutor to go after the PPP loan fraudsters. Now, remember, they've already went after the Ion Overman and her folks. They said they stole millions of dollars. But this man, Jim Crow Joe, we told y'all that this man, that the Democrats they were not going to do black folks no justice. We told y'all that. I was there beating the horn. I was telling black folks. They were like, man, you're a Trump supporter. I was like, no, no, no. You got to look what Trump is doing. Even though the Trump have a blatant racist situation, that's what you want. You want to be able to know where white men stand. But Jim Crow Joe, man, he basically is behind doors sneaking around, and he is basically doing this thing that, that is unprecedented, man. He, like I said, this man is crazy. He's trying to put all of us in jail. And media, basically, they're trying to then support him. That's the reason why every time you go read a news report, they want you to subscribe in order for you to read the article. Nobody is listening to the mainstream white media, and they're upset about it. Now, another thing about Jim Crow Joe is that he's talking about giving people 15 minimum wage thing. But the problem with the $15 minimum wage is that it's not even going. We have to have $20 because what $15, it's not even paying people's mortgages right now. See, there are going to be a lot of clashes coming up. That's the reason why Jim Crow Joe opened up the border. He's breaking all kinds of federal laws in that instances because, Republicans is upset that they can't, get nobody to come and back into work with their slave wages that they're giving on their jobs. And these people are upset. The whole country is, deranged right now. So Jim Crow Joe is trying to break all these Ukrainians, these Afghanistans, these illegal immigrants. This man is gone nuts. As soon as I heard Bill Clinton on Cannon, Bill Clinton he said that the future of this country is illegal immigration. Joe Biden said the same thing when he was running for president. When those two white men who were also the authors of the 1994 crime bill said that, I knew that the game was fixed then. Like, share, and subscribe to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Here we go. So that basically asked the question with our polls here. Is coming up. We'll talk about that as well. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for staying up with me today. We're still talking about a conversation. We haven't got to our main topic about Brett Hankison being found guilty, but this was not about the shooting of Breonna Taylor. This was actually about her neighbors, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about racism in Ukraine a little bit. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Folks, there's a video that's online at the border of Ukraine, and they're saying that that Nigerians and other people they always like to use the word people of color, but I want you to take a look at this a report from WION where they break down that racism in Ukraine is going on at the time of war. We'll give WION the credit for this with this article, but I want to take a look. We've been telling these African immigrants for a very long time that white supremacy is global. White supremacy is there's a lot of racism. They had this news reporter from CBS, I think if he was from, he was talking all kind of like he was talking some slip racist stuff as well. You had the president of, I think one of the Zelensky's cabinet members talking about, and you look at those people and they're blonde hair, blue eyed, and all of, in other words, they should be basically protected, and that the whole country should be basically wanting to save them. But the Africans, oh, don't worry about them. Those black folks there in Ukraine, the Nigerians, all these other people, no, don't worry about them. You should be protecting those black folks. I mean, those white people that's in Ukraine that is suffering. But I want you to take a look at this article right here. Why is it not? Students from Africa and Asia are left stranded at the Ukrainian border. Hold on. Hold on. Violence in the Polish-Ukraine border has caused the crisis in Ukraine has also exposed the racist tendencies in the Western world. Thousands of students from Africa and Asia are left stranded at the Ukrainian border, but reports of alleged segregation and violence in the Polish-Ukraine border has caused tensions. Nigeria has now hit out at the security officials for their treatment towards their citizens and students. The president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, evoked the UN convention. He said that the color of passport or their skin should not make any difference. The Nigerian presidency laid out several instances of reported discrimination by both the Ukrainian as well as the Polish military soldiers. The government cited media reports and videos circulating on social media.
On est là exposé dehors avec le froid qu'il y a ici. On ne nous donne toujours pas où nous abriter en fait. On est exposé avec le froid.
The African Union also condemned the human rights violation. In a statement, the union emphasized that Africans are being singled out and called for more empathy, saying that all people should have the same rights, notwithstanding the nationality or racial identity. South Africa's foreign ministry spokesperson said that South African students are also subjected to the harsh treatment. The spokesperson said that South African envoys are ensuring assistance to stranded South Africans. Ghana has also sent its embassy officials to the border points to assist in their evacuations.
Now, I wanted to talk about this because, see, that right there is important. It's important to talk about that even at the time that Ukraine is at war with Russia, Vladimir Putin is not playing games with folks. He has already said that he's going to want to take over all Ukraine, and he's going to do it. The best thing that Zelensky can do is step down at this point. But I wanted to talk to Black people, African immigrants. We told y'all that we're by ourselves. We don't have no friends. There's no black and brown coalition because the white man is going to look out for himself and his kids before he look out for you and you and your children. But I wanted to highlight something that put us into this particular situation. Go ahead and hit my thumbs up. Go ahead and hit my like buttons. Get my thumbs up, like button, share, subscribe. I want to bring out these points in fact in racism in Ukraine. This journey has proved to be particularly challenging for Black people who, even during life and death situation, have found themselves running into a racist barriers to their safety and freedom. That's an article that the white media was forced to talk about. Goes on to say, quote, that outlined the white media, as I said, was not only forced to talk about the Ukrainians while at a time of war, but they were still engaging in war. They told a Black woman, a lot of y'all on the social media has put up the article, I can't find it right now, where they were telling a Black woman with an infant child, you have to get up so that these white people can sit there. Before Russia invaded Ukraine, remember, they were basically at their sports events. They were basically saying free Derek Chauvin in the situation of George Floyd's death. You remember that? Professor Black Truth had basically he got the article and he basically showed us that article. Now, what this reporter said about they are civilized, they look like us, and they're black. I'm sorry, they have blue eyes and blonde hair. That rhetoric that the white media basically that's spewing from the CBS reporter, these types of reports, I'm telling you, is why we can't trust the white media, because they're going to report in a racist and biased way. Al Jazeera reported that more African students decry racism at the Ukrainian border. But I want to basically get you to understand that racism is a global thing. White supremacy is global, we try to tell folks. So I'm going to give the Independent credit, thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. It says UN amidst refugees have faced racism at Ukraine border. And I'm going to give Nadine White the credit for this. But I want to talk about this here. The United Nations has admitted that some non-European refugees have faced discrimination while trying to flee to safety at the Ukraine border after their experience were dismissed as lies, as Russian disinformation by online commentators. They're talking about us. Now, notice the white media says non-European. See, this is the reason why no one wants to subscribe to the white media, because they don't mention black people. They always say either non-Europeans or people of color. That is a problem. I want to be referred to as black. It goes on to say that Filippo Grandi, I hope I said that name right, the organization's High Commissioner for Refugees, acknowledged that plight during the press conference on Tuesday afternoon. You'll have seen reports in the media that are different treatment with Ukrainians and non-Ukrainians. Now, our observation, and we cannot observe every single post yet, but our observation is that these are not state policies, but there are instances which is happened, he said. There has been a different treatment. There should be absolutely no discrimination between Ukrainians and non-Ukrainians, Europeans and non-Europeans. Everyone is fleeing from the same risk. Okay? Now, that statement is okay, even though I don't agree with all of that dying this and, people of color, that crap. But what the article is basically saying so far makes sense. It's because they basically saw this blatant racism of this, people just basically that the border patrols and all these folks just snatching African people up, and they were confused because they thought that everybody loved you. Remember, we're just going around giving this big old black love and hug, and everybody love each other, embrace each other. That's not what's happening in Ukraine right now. Russia. I should say President Putin of Russia. He is basically on a bridge of basically trying to get Zelensky's people out of Ukraine. He don't want them there because, as I said in my other podcasts and other video essays, is that he argues that there was neo-Nazis running Ukraine. We know that, right? He was right about the racism there in Ukraine. Hell, we've seen that right now. So we know that he has a fact about or point on that. And we also know that Russia has racism as well. You see, so we can't basically decipher the two different racisms that happen in Ukraine and Russia because they are the same collectively. But what we basically were getting at is that we were seeing black people, not people of color, not nobody else, but we were seeing black people getting shoved. But the white media want to keep on talking about people of color, other people, non-Europeans. This is the reason why no one is paying attention to them, because they're not talking the truth. See, we in the commentary, even though they go after us or come after us, we speak the truth to power. And we basically identify people as they are. We don't call them people of color. We don't call them non-Ukrainians or non-Europeans. That doesn't work, because now you're trying to say that there's a lot of other minorities who experiencing this, and they're not. It's only Black people. But this fight in Ukraine basically is going to be a huge issue. And we told, and what I said was, and I called it. I said that Zelensky should step down so that there could not be a World War III. They want to keep him in office. NATO is, none of the NATO countries have came to help. They've only been sanctions, and they're going to make our gas prices go up here in America. You may already be paying $3 something at the pump right now. It's fit to go up to $4 or $5. Y'all keep messing with Russia. Because here's the thing. If you're going to be racist towards Black people, why should we basically help the Ukrainians? Why should we support the Ukrainians? That's all we're asking in the Black media, okay? That's all we're asking. We are not going to at all support anybody who engage in anti-Black hatred against us. If you hate Black people, we can't support you. The Ukrainians have shown disrespect, this contempt for Black folks. And so therefore, like I said, President Putin has a point here. I believe, like I said, Zelensky should step down in order to save NATO, in order to save the nation, the world. You understand? What he is doing is he's staying in power. He's a puppet of the West. He's a puppet of NATO. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to, like I said in my other commentary, continues to isolate Putin, and he's just sick and tired of it. So Ukrainian is one of his peripheries, as I said in my previous video. Afghanistan was one, but we basically see what happened to that when Bush invaded Afghanistan in 2003. You're still listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, my friends and everybody who is participating who's listening today. I want to, really share the polls that we're basically that we have on the side. As I told you all, that we're doing a poll for the verdict and the Hankison, what's his name, Brett Hankison, the guy who one of the police officers, race soldiers who shot Breonna Taylor and killed her. He was on trial for shooting the neighbors, which was white neighbors. And so today's main topic is we're talking about, on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show, we're talking about Breonna Taylor's case, warning white people that you can get shot staying next to Black folks. And this is what this verdict was about. But let's go in to talk more about this, as well as we talk about this.
Wanton endangerment, first degree, as to Zaid and F. We, the jury, found the defendant, Brett Hankison, not guilty of wanton endangerment, first degree, under instruction number 6. Counsel, anything further from this jury?
Now, when he was found not guilty, remember, he was found guilty of not shooting not Breonna Taylor, but he was found not guilty for not shooting at these his her white neighbors. And this verdict though is basically saying, all right, you white folks, you have to basically understand that if you stay next to a black person, then that you can basically be shot and killed. So you better start, white people, making sure that no black folks are staying in those apartment complex. You better make sure you're not staying with black folks in these homes and you're in the neighborhoods. And that's one of the reasons then why when black people move in with white neighborhoods, you see white people basically move out. Now, Breonna Taylor's death has a lot of people upset, and rightfully so. Now, they basically are protesting, but here's the thing: we protest and all that. We go out there with white people, and white people come out there and hold signs. That's not what we need. Okay. Now, I'll get to that in a minute and explain what we need in a minute. But I wanted to basically point out that there have been 11 million signatures on change.org calling for the arrest of the other race soldiers. This is what we're talking about. When white people get reassigned, they don't go to jail, folks. They always talk about firing them. That firing doesn't work. These race soldiers have to be punished. They have to be sent to prison. That's the only justice we're looking for. But the white people that will stand next to her, they basically got what is called a "you don't stay next to a nigger" type wake-up call. You understand? And of course, Breonna Taylor's family came out. Protesters, like I said, they were upset with the acquittal, and that's to be expected. Now, when anybody like this cop, Hankison, when he did this raid and was found not guilty, like I said, remember, he was found not guilty of killing her white neighbors or shooting into their homes and their home dwelling. Okay? So we have to look at this. We have to look at this. And he basically took the stand in his own defense. He did the white Karens crying on stage. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. It worked for Kim Potter, right? It didn't work for Amber Geiger, but it worked for Kim Potter. So the question is, has the theatrics of white folks breaking down when they get on stage, on the stand, had that work for black folks? I'm sorry, white people. Is that coming back to reality? Is white people basically are able to use this particular fakeness in order to justify killing a black person? Our polls is on the side. It says vote yes or no. Do you think that Brett Hankison should have been found guilty of killing Breonna Taylor or found guilty of this raid or shooting in his neighbor's home? Vote on the side there, please. Like, share, and subscribe. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this because it was very important. It was very important to talk about the Breonna Taylor's case. And I want to give credit to David Mack of BuzzFeed of doing the article, even though, like I said, we don't support the white media at all, because we know that they report news based upon trying to justify their reality of what they want the society to be. Okay. And they often, like I said, they do not include black people at all when they're in their article. They have to always do a twist, a lie, manipulate, try to propagandize certain situation, trying to make black people feel like it's their own fault. The white media, like I said, is atrocious when it comes to news reporting. This is the reason why we basically stopped listening to them. This is the reason why we have to do our own media. We are by ourselves. We have no friends. These people don't like us at all. And black folks are getting this wake-up call inch by inch. I failed to report what we were talking about Joe Biden. Remember, I failed to report that a lot of his Democratic shield says that they're going to sit out the next election. You see? So, but back to this. BuzzFeed writes that ex-cop charged over Breonna Taylor's raid was found not guilty of wanton endangerment. Almost 2 years since the deadly raid, Brett Hankison was on trial for firing bullets into Taylor's neighbor's apartment. Now notice they said Taylor's neighbor apartment, not Breonna Taylor herself. It took a jury only a few hours to find him not guilty. Brett Hankison, the former Louisville detective charged in connection with the deadly 2020 raid that killed Breonna Taylor, was found not guilty of wanton endangerment on Thursday. Hankison was visibly emotional as the judge announced the verdict, meaning he was fake tear crying that we see that oftentimes of these race soldiers. Hankison was visibly emotional as the judge announced the verdict. In total, he had been charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment and had been facing a potential prison sentence of 15 years. You see, they ain't gonna put no white man up there, putting him in jail for no 15 years here. Jurors deliberated for only a few hours before reaching their conclusion. The verdict bring to an end the sole criminal proceeding connected with the killing of Taylor, the 26-year-old EMT who was shot dead by police as they raided her apartment around 1 a.m. on March the 13th, 2020. Her death, along with that of George Floyd in Minneapolis, helped ignite widespread anti-racist protests across the U.S. in 2020. But to the disappointment and anger of Taylor's family and supporters, Hankison was not on trial over her killings. Rather, the charges stem from his firing his weapon through her walls and into the neighboring apartment where a pregnant woman, a man, and a child were sleeping. 1 or 2 more inches and I would have been shot, Cody Atherton, the neighbor was narrowly avoided being struck by the bullet, told the jury. It kind of upset me. I think about it all the time. My son would never have got to meet me. I would never have got to meet my son. It was so scary and crazy. His partner, Chelsea Napter, testified, I didn't know what was going on. This is the woman that was basically Breonna Taylor's neighbor. Okay, this is her neighbor. And so this is warning white folks, is that, listen, if you go basically and you are staying next to a white person, you can be shot by police. This is warning them. This is what this court proceeding is all about, mind you. It goes on to say, Kentucky Assistant Attorney General Barbara Welling argued Hankison defied his training and exhibit extreme indifference to human life by firing blindly into Taylor's apartment. As part of her case, she called to the stand a police firearm instructor who testified that the officers are trained to identify their target before firing. How do we know he aware of this risk of shooting blindly? Whaley said in her closing argument on Thursday. Well, because he has 20 years of training as a police officer. The defense instead sought to portray Hankison's action as justified, arguing he was trying to protect his fellow officers from gunfire in a raid that rapidly turned chaotic. He did what he had to do to do that day, Matthews said in his closing arguments. His action was not criminal and he does not deserve to be sent to prison, is what Matthews said. Now keep in mind, this was a no-knock warrant. They had lied, they had falsified the evidence to the judge to get a warrant. To get this no-knock warrant. They basically had no evidence. All of them were lying. They knew that there was no drugs in there. They were basically claiming that Breonna Taylor's old boyfriend stayed there. They were lying about that. This is them white-splaining now. They knew that this fabrication was basically, they knew that this was a fabrication. It was a lie. They knew that they had no evidence to go and get this warrant and seek it. You see what I'm saying? That's what we tell you. White people don't have to follow the law. And this is what we're talking about. Goes on to say here that Taylor and her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, have been asleep with police rammed in the door of her home, executing a search warrant as part of their drug investigation in her former boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover. Thinking their home was being broken into, Walker fired one shot, hitting an officer in the leg. Hankison and his colleagues then fired 32 shots in response, 6 in which struck Taylor. John Madeline and Miles Cosgrove, the 2 officers who shot Taylor, both invoked their Fifth Amendment rights and declined to testify at trial. Hankison told the jury that when Walker fired his gun, he saw a brief flash that eliminated the dark apartment. Instead, he believed he was seeing a person at the end of the hallway holding an AR-15 rifle. As he ran from the front door and to the side of the apartment in order to escape the so-called fatal funnel, Hankison said he could hear a volley of gunfire that he had assumed was coming from the rifle. In fact, it was the sound of his 2 colleagues firing rounds. Hankison then fired 10 rounds into the apartment, thinking he was aiming in the direction of where he had seen the figure in a hallway. Now, we just stop there because there's a lot of white explaining there. But to make a long story short, these folks lie. They always do that. They're lying. This is white explaining at its best. Hankison lied. They did the other 2 officers, Miles Cosgrove and Manling, or whatever you call this clown. They did not want to testify. They invoked the Fifth Amendment. You had that bootlicking Negro Attorney General. You had him, lying to the jury, manipulating the jury. And they came out and exposed this bootlicking Uncle Tom Negro. These people basically put a system in place where it worked for white supremacy. And we know that. Black people are not dumb. Black people know this. Black folks like this racist system. Let's just be very frank about it. Y'all like this system. Y'all would like to be oppressed. That's what it is. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe to my video, folks. Come on, we are almost done. But we're talking about why they did this. We're talking about the fact that they had to basically show these white folks, listen, you stay next to these black people, it's basically no limits to what you can have done to you. Because, see, not only that it's dangerous for you to stay with the same side of these Negroes, is that it also shows that you as a white person is off cold. Remember Kyle Rittenhouse? And he also did the theatricals and crying and things. What did they do? That judge was so much of a joke. He had this fool picking his own jury through picking out things on the inside a basket and saying, oh, who is this? Claire Reeves? You're going to sit on the jury? Yeah, this whole thing was just theatrics. You understand? They're basically showing black people that you have no justice in this system. This is them telling you that they do not care about your rights. They don't care about you. This system is basically corrupt. It has always been corrupt. These folks do not like black folks, and black folks know it. But they just basically trying to get along with everybody. We are our own people. We do not need these people. We are our own folks. And they understand that. That's the reason why you have to get ScrewTube and all these other people online, all these other platforms. This is the reason why we're starting our own streaming service and also trying to get a Patreon account. Because, man, these folks on YouTube and other platforms, they basically try to edit your stuff when you're telling the truth and speaking truth to power. These people, man, try to claim that we're giving out disinformation when you're supposed to be on a democracy that gives you the right to give an alternative view or an opinion to something. And these people are undermining this, talking all this disinformation crap. These folks know that they're not telling the truth. They know that they want to wipe black people out of history. Come on now. Let's be very clear. Hankison is guilty, but he got off. He's another race soldier that got off. And all the other two, basically, they're retreating to their old white supremacist ways. After the George Floyd situation, everybody calmed down. You got Jim Crow Joe Biden over there, and he's like I said at his State of the Union, talking about, oh, it's not to defund the police. We need to put more money in the police departments so that these race soldiers can control us and to keep us in a segmented labor market. That's the reason why the police, they want to fund the police. It's not about crime. The police don't stop crime. The police is the biggest drug dealers this country's ever known. They don't stop crime. Come on. If you have not visited the Lawyer Henderson Podcast Show YouTube page, go back to look at our old previous video. And if you like, if you can provide a love donation to us, our cash app is $ Lawyer Henderson 40. Also, you can, like, share, and subscribe. If you don't want to give a love offering at this point, like, share, and subscribe. To advertise to the channel, please email me at lawyer@cinemacitypicturesinc.com. Thank you for listening, and join us next week. And next week, what are we talking about? Oh, we got a long list of things to talk about coming up on the Lawyer Henderson Podcast Show. Hopefully no emergencies show up that we have to stop doing these shows. But folks, we're talking about next week, we're talking about divestment tales. There was a story of a sister who basically got killed suspectedly of this white supremacist, and she got with this man and he basically killed her. Man, we're hearing a lot of stories about this, so we're going to do our commentary next week. Also, Kevin Samuels, we're going to be talking about him, his concept of high value males, and how he tried to then tell black women, all women at least, but specifically black women, about and ask them about why they should deserve, or why they deserve a high value man. And so we'll talk about that as well. And then finally, we're also going to be talking about adding to that, what makes a high value man, and if women basically could, what makes them qualify to get a high value man. So that is next. Also, we're going to be talking about the Small Business Administration and the fight to get grants for black businesses. You're in the Lawyer Henderson Podcast Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for listening and watching. Till next time.